Hey, everybody, I'm Jane.
And I'm Sarah.
And you're listening to the Medium Curious Podcast, the show that lets you know that the mediumship is a lot like Noah's Ark. It has lots and lots of creatures.
That is good. I like that one.
Oh, thank you.
And lots of creatures. We'll be talking about creatures with Rebecca Berry, who we have on today. She is a writer who has written for the likes of the New York Times, Washington Post, O Magazine, and she's also published 2 books, and she is an intuitive counselor, coach, and
a miracle.
Whale chatter.
A walking, and a whale chatter.
Yeah.
Which is what brought up the creatures. Beautiful. Let's go talk to her.
Yes.
Ready? Go.
Welcome, Rebecca. We're so thrilled to have you. Jane has showed me all the stuff, and I've read all the stuff, and I love you because of it. And I feel like I can have a little bit of an understanding of how you are walking through this world. So will you share with our listeners what it is you do, maybe brag a little bit, and tell us all how you walk through this world?
Well, let's see. What I do, I will say that my purpose, I feel like in this life, I figured out a while ago. It's something that I knew pretty effortlessly when I was 10, but I really want to walk through this world as connected to the universe as I possibly can be. So that's kind of what I try to do, is just be as connected all the time as I can, which makes me a very strange person. I don't need to be. I think it's totally normal. I think that everybody is like this, sort of, with their antenna up and listening to everything. But it's a little awkward sometimes. But what I do is I'm a writer. I've published 2 books. So I had my first part of my career was really a professional writer. I still am a professional writer. I have a column on Substack. And then in my early 50s, I really made a purposeful intention to just go back to the sort of 11-year-old I was when I was really open to everything. I didn't. It wasn't like a sit down and it just sort of came to me, that I remembered I used to be so connected. I used to feel connected to the stars. I used to be so light. And when I say light, I don't mean bright necessarily. I just mean lighthearted. So I just said to myself, I think this decade I really want to go back to that. And boom. Like as soon as I said that, I had a major breakup with a really good friend. It was really hard. Everything spiraled for a while. And then I just threw myself into intuitive studies because I felt like the way back to I was really sort of shattered in some ways. And that is just not to say anything negative about anybody, because I deeply still love my friend and everything's great. But it just sort of opened me up to, you can't continue this way. You have to expand in other ways. And I also knew that regular therapy, although I'm a huge fan of that, and I still have a regular therapist, that regular therapy wasn't going to be enough for this. I had to heal my heart some other way. So I pretty much flew to intuitive and psychic studies and mystical studies. And I feel like that has made me, it's so funny. Once I was driving in the car with my mother on the way to dialysis, and she was a psych nurse. And so I was telling her about one of my classes, and we had been talking that week, we'd been talking about The Departed. So she said, well, how's your school going? And I said, oh, it's amazing. This week we talked to The Departed and your mother showed up and she said this and this, and, and my mother was listening and she said, uh-huh. And I said, okay, I know, I hear it. I know how would you diagnose? But I was like, Mom, I feel like the crazier I sound, the happier I am. Like I know it. I know how I sound, but everything I'm doing is making me so happy. I feel like I'm walking through life as a happier, more grounded person. So I don't care if it's real or that's not really interesting to me. What's interesting to me is how it's lifting my spirits. My mother was quiet. And I said, well, okay, so if I was on your unit, how would you diagnose me? And my mother, who absolutely loved everyone on her unit, said, honey, you are nowhere near crazy enough to be on my unit. But she said it as if, like the way you would say to someone, oh, sweetheart, you'll never make the Olympics. You'll never be as wild as the people I love. And you're just sort of like, you aren't that, like, sorry, those are the people who, hold my real attention in that way, and she meant it in the most loving way, but I don't know. So
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
So now I do, so back to what I do, I write, I channel whale messages, I do intuitive readings, and I spend a lot of time listening to the whispers of the universe, which are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Wow. Oh my God. Did you just whisper back to her about the one?
I did. Can we start with your writing?
Sure.
With the storytelling, because you're beautiful storytelling, and
OMG.
listening to your stories, I feel like I know your mom, and I feel like I can get a sense of her and the relationship that you had. Can you talk a little bit about intuition in stories and medicine, there being medicine in stories?
I believe that stories are where most of the medicine is. In fact, if I really could I do exactly what I want. But one thing I'd really love to do is do my readings like story medicine, like tell me what you're thinking about, tell me your problem, and I will tell you a story. Because I think that's what we're doing all the time anyway. People tell you, that's how we love each other. We talk to each other and we say, this is bothering me, this is bothering me. And then someone will say, oh, that reminds me of this. And I know that sometimes people say, well, that's very annoying because then you're making it about yourself. But I think most of the time that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is saying, I hear you. I love that you told me that story. I have a story too. And maybe our stories will give us medicine. I think we are giving each other story medicine all the time. And I think it's a really beautiful thing to look at the way we talk to each other that way, because well, for me anyway, I feel the people I'm talking to more when I'm really listening to their stories as medicine, as like a gift that they're giving me. Even if it's a tedious story, I have to be sort of like, okay, but what's your heart saying? Let me hear, So that might prompt me to ask a question, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just listen because I like the sound of that person's voice, So I feel like stories are so important, and I feel like stories really make a difference for people and how they feel around each other. And I'm sure you both are aware of this. How we feel around each other is how we lift the world. It's how we change it.
Well, I think, and I know you through Storyland, like that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
And as a fellow, I think you and I were one of the first ones out of the crew of writers that we come from, or at least that I was aware of, that were doing the Substack thing.
Right.
And now I think we're all there now, which is great.
I know. Mm-hmm.
But I remember, that it's cool because that's kind of the introduction, is we fall in love with each other through our stories in that environment. But I continue to have that experience of falling in love with you. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, right? Like that's your medicine is the medicine I need. That's how I feel.
Oh, that's so amazing.
It's just true.
We're happier than that. It's like, it's just all I want to do all day long is do that for people. Like that's all I want to do on this planet.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it. Yeah. And I shared, I think a couple of times I've shared one of my favorite essays, which went, I think had a really nice response on Substack. Now, of course, I'm spacing on the name, but it was the one that told the story of you asking the universe for magic and then going to the grocery store. And I wonder if you could just talk about that, like what that practice is and a little bit about
that practice is so great. I have many versions of that practice, but a lot of times, in fact, now I do it almost every day. Like I get up in the morning and I'm like, okay, I am this being on the planet who is very lucky because I'm not in pain. I'm not physically suffering. I'm not in terrifying state of stark survival. And so that is such an amazing, wow, what luck. I'm so lucky. So then I just say, all right, universe, give me what you got. Like, so it changes form. Sometimes it'll be, all right, give me all the grace you have. Just give it to me. And then or another time it might be, I think in that post, I was saying that sometimes I get up and I say, all right, give me all the miracles you got. Show me what I can take. Give me all the amazingness this lady can take. And then, I have to say, okay, and let me notice it. Help me see it, and then I just spend the whole day looking for it. And it's so cool because once you do that, once you set that up, you start to notice everything takes on this sort of shiny, everything's a sign, everything's a message. You're in conversation with something wonderful. So you start walking around saying things like, oh, that was grace. That's grace. Wow, that was amazing. And then it builds and builds and builds. So that day, I think I just had noticed one thing after another, but it happens all the time. And most recently, I was listening to a podcast by Danielle Agnew, who I really also appreciate as a psychic. And she was talking about money, and she was saying the purpose of money is recognition for effort. And really, all you want to do is be a miracle in someone else's day. Right?
Right.
So I just thought, boom, like that was amazing. So then I walked around and I said, okay, let me be the miracle in someone else's day. That's all I wanted. So I was looking for that, and I did a few things that, I remember like someone in yoga was upset and crying in Shavasana, and I just normally wouldn't have gone over and said anything, given them space. But that day I said, well, maybe I can be a miracle. So I just went over and said, what's wrong, honey? And later she said to me, that was exactly what I needed. I needed someone to come over and say that to me. So I was like, okay, one.
Check.
And then I went out to my dad's because my dad has Alzheimer's, and I was helping him with something, and he couldn't find a pen. And when you have Alzheimer's, or when I don't have it yet, I don't want to talk about that, but in his case, if he loses something, he goes from serene to very, very upset. Losing things is just, of course, because he's lost
disorienting.
a lot. Yeah, it's very disorienting. So he couldn't find a pen. And he was really upset. And he was so angry. And he was saying, I lose things all the time. Every day I lose things. And all I do is lose things. And I found the pen. And I said, oh, Dad, here's the pen. And he went, oh, thank you. And then it was gone, it's anything. But then, which is normal, like that happens a lot. But then he said, he looked at me and he said, I don't know what I'd do without you.
Oh.
And that was different. So that was number 2. And then what really happened for me when I started the practice of trying to be the miracles in someone else's day was that I got over that pretty quickly, because that was too hard. Because then I was sort of rude to someone in a store because they were trying to help my dad. And I just was like, he doesn't need your help. Just leave him alone. And then I was like, oh my God, who am I? Like the lady at the store is like, don't leave that old man alone. He's fine. Oh my God. I still feel bad about that. So then I was like, well, that undoes my first 2 miracles.
You have a tally system.
Right. I've got it in because my brain is just keeping track of everything. And so, but then, then I let go of that. But then what I started to notice, and this was the beautiful thing about this particular practice, was I started to notice how other people were miracles in my day. And it was one thing. That was so much bigger. That was so much bigger. And then
that connection.
I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe, this person, that woman tried to help my father, which was actually a miracle that I cut off because I was a jerk. But, just one thing after another. And this was around Christmas time. And we went to Joanne Fabrics or something, and we went to the store, and there was all this, really sort of schlocky Christmas Carol music in. And I came out and I said to my husband, I forget it. I'm not feeling Christmas. I don't like those Christmas carols. It is not the most wonderful time of the year. There are many wonderful times of the year. This is just one of them. I'm just like,
humbug.
Sure. And then we went down to this bakery downtown that is run by some a local bread maker who uses all local flour and is just a musician and a really wonderful person. It's called Wide Awake Bakery. I just want to give it a shout out. And we went in there, and I had given up on Christmas. And when I walked in, and a friend of mine was conducting, she's a violinist and a conductor, and she had some of her students were playing. So she was conducting and playing, and they were playing Christmas carols, and it was all violins. And I walked in, and they were playing Away in the Manger. And I burst into tears. I was like, my mother, it was like my mother filled the room. It was, and that is real when your body responds like that. I mean, I just couldn't not cry. I stood there and I was trying to order something, and I was like, okay, Barry, hold it together. Like, when this person asks you what you want, you can't just be sobbing.
Yeah.
I was, saying, can I have a pretzel? I was like, if I eat a pretzel, maybe it'll stop, I had the best pretzel of my life. It was delicious. But there was something about the way my friend was conducting, because when she conducts and plays, her name's Kirsten Marshall. When she conducts and plays, it doesn't matter. She could be in Carnegie Hall. She could be in that bakery. The joy that comes through her, it is magical. It is so purposeful. And I really believe that she was being her own miracle. She was just doing what she does and letting that flow through her. And that brought me back just completely into beauty. And my mom came, so that's just a really amazing practice. You start out thinking it's going to be one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you open, the universe gives you something 10 times more miraculous. It wasn't about me being a miracle. It was about me witnessing other people being miracles and being able to receive that and just be in a state of awe.
I listened to your TED Talk talking about you being a feeler and the importance of that. So you had that experience, you witnessed the miracle, the tears came, you allowed them, you felt it. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of feeling everything?
Yeah, I guess.
And also the importance of pretzels. I just would like both, please.
Pretzel was so good. I mean,
it sounds really good.
And it was so funny because my husband was standing behind me, and he didn't, he's so used to this kind of thing. I wasn't crying yet. That happened when we got in the car, but I was trying to just keep the tears from coming, but my eyes were full. And so I handed him a pretzel, and I'm sitting there trying not to cry and feeling all the love in the universe. And my husband is standing behind me saying, "This is the best pretzel I've ever tasted. This is the best thing I've ever had."
So cute.
He was so
the love of the pretzel.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm in the best, happiest place. And I love Christmas. He's like, I think it's the most wonderful time of the year. What's your problem?
You're like, no, it's changed, honey. It's changed. I'm better.
I think for me, and I think that maybe not everybody has to feel everything all the time, but I feel like the beauty of feeling things is that when your feelings all have room, they don't tend to get stuck. And then if you have a place to put them, you're able to be more joyful, because my understanding is that joy holds everything. And
wow.
It holds everything. So there's joy and sorrow. Yeah. There's sorrow and joy. There's joy and rage. There's rage and joy. But joy just holds all of it. And so if you allow all of it, then you're able to access joy more easily.
I'd never heard that before about joy being the container for everything else, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that comes from my friend David Rosenthal at Dolphin, the I can't remember what their name is now, but Dolphin Heart World. They're people who, it was a dolphin school I went to, just, getting attuned to the dolphins. They're wonderful. But he was sort of the one who sort of tuned me into, or turned me on to that idea. And I think it came to him from, we're all getting it from a million different places, but it really changed everything for me, that idea.
Wow. It's like getting out of the way of joy.
Yeah.
Like joy is the current. And then you're like, wow, I hit a beaver dam full of rage.
Yeah. And,
You know,
and you just
like I
allow
gotta
it,
undo it. I gotta say, what's up, beavers? And like, sorry guys, I need to, sorry, we're gonna move, but if you try to fly over it, it's great. I mean, all the visuals that I'm bringing are so random, but I had this come through in a session recently where it was like, there's this beautiful channel between you and the divine, or you and your higher self, or however you perceive that relationship with the everything. And it's almost like a constant roto-rooter. Like I'm just clearing that channel. I'm clearing it. And emotions are going to block that. Or like stories are going to block that. And old patterns are going to block that. So then it's like I'm being presented with an opportunity to clear some shit. And then I will have, like you're saying, I will have more access to joy. Like it's, and this is what I find really attractive in people is when their joy is easy. So I think this is making so much sense to me. Like my cute husband, whose birthday happens to be today, he has instant access to joy. And it could be his Piscean way. I'm not sure, but he just can flip to joy and laughter immediately. And I've always just been so charmed by that in him and in other people. Like if you can laugh with, even if shit's really hard, I'm like, we're friends. Like we're going to hang out.
Well, yes. I mean, and it's also a highly, if it's possible, and I feel like, again, I'm in a pretty blessed place in my life right now. So I'm not starving. I'm not going through real trauma right in this moment. So if you're in that place, gosh, wouldn't you want to be able to access your joy? Just, it's a practice so that when you do get into a traumatic state, maybe you can still find it. I feel like I just think it's the only way to be alive for me, that it's almost like a practice that's self-preservation. It's like, I'm here. I'm alive on planet Earth. Yeah. Wow. How many miracles if you look at the science of what has to come together for a human being to be alive on planet Earth, it's amazing. So then it's sort of, I think, okay, well, what am I going to do with that? And I want to do it in the way that makes me happiest. So I have practices like that. I mean, I don't think about it as clearing as much. I think about it as befriending. Because there's something about the clearing energy for me that, and this is 100% Pisceans. We're just also, I don't know, we have a lot of stuff, a lot of feelings. We're like, and then we have all this like, oh, I don't want to make anybody feel bad, So it's like, okay, rage. I don't want you to feel bad, I don't want to be in this state all day because it's bad for my cortisol levels. But you're welcome. What do you want to tell me? What are you so mad about? What's the problem?
What are you so mad about?
Yeah, what's the problem? What happened? And then it's interesting. Then you listen to it. And it's usually something, I mean, I remember, I don't even remember what I was upset about, but one day I was in a state of such rage. And I thought, I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. I'm never getting over this. I'm so angry. And then I sat down and I had been listening to a Tibetan monk. And he was talking about he was one of the people who talked about this practice of, he was like, you just open your arms and you welcome it, like you just give it a warm, spacious hug. So I closed my eyes and I envisioned my rage and I opened my arms. I said, warm, spacious hug. What do you want? And this thing was like, I just would like you to stop doubting yourself. It was such a gentle, helpful message. And I had been walking around like, I'm going to take all this electronic crap in this house and throw it out the window and into the, I mean, I was so mad. I don't even remember what it was, but
Yeah.
it was but really it was just asking me to not doubt myself. So usually
Yeah.
there's something in there
Yeah.
that's so gentle, but because we're not
Mm.
listening and because we're trying not to feel it, we can't hear it. We can't hear its message. So I think that's back to your question. That's sort of the importance of it for me, is it's how feeling helps me get back to joy and also helps me hear the messages that my body is trying to tell me.
Okay, tell us all about the messages. Tell us all about your intuition kicking in and you hearing.
I mean, I've been hearing messages for a long time. I started hearing them when my niece died, and I mean, I've been hearing them probably all my life, but I got a very loud, clear one after my niece died. I heard her.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was just terrible. And I was walking around outside and I heard her and she asked me to give her parents a message. And so I
Wow.
did that. And that was the first time that something really came through like that. And that was another reason I flew into intuitive studies, because part of me was like, if this is real and this is happening, then I need to understand how to work with it. I can't just be walking around, or I could, but I wanted to understand it better. And so since then I've learned a lot, and I'm open all the time, and I do hear things a lot. And I had something happen this past summer where I was in and half the time I get these messages and then the messages are very interesting because they're always funny and they're always very on point. I have this one guide who yells at me a lot. And I remember once she's sort of, she's sort of, I don't know, she's kind of indigenous. I don't know what she just has this sort of, she doesn't like clothes. She doesn't like to wear clothes. She likes to wear feathers and sometimes she's blue and sometimes she's green. And so one time I was about to I was taking a trip to New York City and I was going to pitch some articles at magazine editors. And I meditated before I went into my meetings. And I said, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to know to make these meetings turn out really well? And she shut up and she was so annoyed. Or I think it was before I was going into the meetings. It was before I was trying to figure out whether I was not to go on the trip. And I was like, I haven't, I was taking care of mom and I was saying, I need to make some money. I have to drum up some business. What should I do? And she showed up and she was so annoyed, and she had put herself into a sheath dress with like boots that I wear, which she hates wearing clothes. So she had stuffed herself into this very chic outfit. And she said, you're going to put on a dress. You're going to go to New York City. You're going to wear this stupid outfit with these stupid shoes. You're going to take your staff. You're going to pound it into the ground. And you're going to say, I am the voice you are looking for.
Yes.
Right?
Nice.
So I said, okay.
Some version of that.
Yeah, some version of that. So I went to New York City. I put on my stupid shoes. I put on my perfect dress. I went to all the meetings. I had a great time. Everything was wonderful. And I got a whole, every meeting went great. And then I came home and everybody said, yes, I love those ideas. I love those ideas. Pitch them. I came home, I wrote up all the pitches, and they all, for whatever reason, did not get taken, not one. So I was mad, and then I sat down in meditation and I said, okay, her name's Sandra. I said, Sandra, what happened? And she just was sort of sitting there she's sitting by a fire. And she said, well, did you take your staff? And I said, well, no.
No.
And she said, I told you to take a staff. And I said, well, I did wear really nice boots and I did, carry a pencil, which I decided was my staff. And she said, did you pound it into the ground? I said, no. She said, did you say, I'm the voice you're looking for? And I said, no, I did not. We had nice conversations and I told her my ideas and she just sort of shook her head. And I said, Sandra, to be fair, what writer goes in and says, I'm the voice you are looking for? And she didn't say anything, but I instantly heard in my head, Norman Mailer. And I was like, I didn't go in there like Norman Mailer. I didn't go to, in and say, I'm the voice you're looking for. I didn't. I just sort of went and had a really nice time. And so part of me feels like, well, maybe that was the point of that whole thing. And I did like my outfit, I did feel wonderful. I got out of my town and went to New York City. I hadn't been there in a long time. It was wonderful. So that's a time when the messages were funny and a little confusing. But then recently I had this thing happen where I was with my husband. We were on Cape Cod and we were going to a restaurant, and Tommy was talking about things he wants to. We have this family house there that's really, 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 really old, like 300 years old. And it hasn't been touched in over 100 years. So it needs a little help. So Tommy was talking about things he wanted to do to make it better. Every time he talks about that, something in me, I think it's the house, is just like, don't touch anything, don't touch anything. So we were sitting at this restaurant and Tommy was talking about what he wanted to do to the house. I wasn't really listening. I was looking at the waiter, who was young and maybe North African. He had, beautiful golden brown skin and then very tawny eyes. They were almond shaped with beautiful long lashes and sort of a golden hazel color. And every time I saw him, I looked at him, I kept seeing his mother, or sensing his mother. I don't really see the way I think you do, Jane. I sense. So I kept sensing his mother. Tommy's talking about moving a wall or doing something. And I look at him and I say, it's so weird. Every time the waiter comes over, I sense his mother. I'm seeing his mother. And Tommy's not paying attention to me the way I'm not paying attention to him. We don't care. We both are like, we like this. We like each other's stories. We don't care. So we're both kind of talking and not listening and enjoying each other's company. But it kept happening. Every time this guy came over, I kept seeing his mother. So then I'm like, okay, should I say something? I mean, this is the thing about messages, When do you deliver them? When do you not deliver them? Why are they coming? Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking I should say something. And then I'm thinking, what? No, that's going to be crazy. Just have your breakfast. So then but it keeps happening and I keep getting nudge, 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 nudge. There's his mother again. And it was not like she was dead. You know the difference, but I know you guys know this, like what it feels like when somebody's coming, when somebody's already crossed over. Didn't feel like that. It felt like she was there. So, this keeps happening. And I say, okay, if I do say something, how should I say it? And I heard, ask him if his eyes are like his mother's. And I'm like, that's weirder than just saying, I'm seeing your mom. No.
I think that's perfect.
Well, you're correct. So it keeps happening. I decide I'm not going to say anything. Then right as he gives the check, I can't do it. So I just say, excuse me, can I ask you something? He says, oh, of course. And I say, do you and your mother have the same eyes? And it was just like, there was no awkwardness. He put his hand over his heart and said, yes, they are or he put his hands over his nose and said, they are the same. If you put your hands here, they are the same exactly. We have the same eyes. And I said, I knew it. I've been saying to my husband, every time I look at that guy, I keep seeing his mother. And he, bless his heart, that's when he put his hand over his heart. And he said, for 3 years, I haven't seen her. I miss her so much.
Oh, Rebecca.
It was so big. And I thought, wow, that woman hadn't died. That is just the power of love of an embodied person.
That is the power of
here
love.
on
Yeah.
Earth.
Yep.
A mother in another country across the sea. Her love was so strong that she could reach this stranger who was trying to have a conversation with her husband about renovating a house, and kept nudging me until I said something. And then, it was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And
that she wasn't like across an ocean saying, that's the one, that woman, Rebecca right there. I'm going to nudge her.
No,
it's like it's a higher soul level connection.
Oh, 100%. And it had nothing to do with me. It's just that I was hearing it. It could be, it doesn't make, I'm not saying this in any way to make myself seem special, because it was just, it's not what it is. It's more that this was available and I did it. And then it was completely awkward. We had this moment where it just like, boom, it was so beautiful. And then, I tried to sign the check. I dropped the pen. I signed my name wrong. It's just almost too much. But it was just, I just thought, gosh, if we can do that, why? If we have that kind of power, if women, it's not just women, it's everybody has it. But if we can do that, we really could stop violence on this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think that's the dream. I think that's the hope. That's why we're doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm. That's my hope.
Yeah. What were you saying, Jane?
Yeah. I mean, you did that. You did the thing. You were a miracle in someone's life.
Oh yeah. That was before I wanted to be the miracles. That was before
it turns out
that.
You made that boy's day, week, month. Like, you brought his mother in the room by acknowledging her. Yeah. And he needed her.
Yes, that was it. I mean, and that's the power of listening. Mm-hmm. Well, there's two things. It's the power of listening and the power of responding, even though you don't, like, taking that leap of
exactly the courage, the courage to be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say that with total lightheartedness, even though, obviously you have that your mom being a psych
she's
nurse.
Like, not you. You're not
crazy enough, babe. Sorry. I really need a psych nurse to tell me that. Maybe I'll chat to your mom.
Oh, she's the best. She's the best. She was the best. Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. But I think that is what I wanted to acknowledge, is the courage. It took a lot of courage to say what you were seeing.
The thing is, it's gone badly before too. I mean, and I wish
sure.
My sister-in-law is so sweet, because she's, I've done it so many times and it's just been a mess. People have thought, who are you? Get out of here with that witch. And I have a sister-in-law who said to me once, what I love about you, Rebecca? You just keep walking up to people and saying, I have a message for you from a dead person. Do you want it? No matter who they are. You just keep trying. You just keep coming up and saying, I have a message from your guide. Your guide is an eagle. Do you want it? And I thought, I know. I almost wish it's not, sometimes I think it's not courage. Sometimes it's just foolhardiness or something.
Well, it also takes a certain amount of comfortableness with your own self. You know what I mean? Like, I am okay no matter what. I don't care if people think this about me.
Yeah.
So that leads me to the next question I have about your whale chatting.
Oh my God, they're so amazing. Yeah.
Tell us everything. I know Jane's a friend of whales too.
Yeah.
So. Just a recent addition, and all inspired by you, Rebecca. So I'm excited to hear this story.
Well, I've loved them since I was a little girl, of course, because they're amazing. Who doesn't love them? And then probably midway into my intuitive studies, I was meditating, and up till then I had a practice of sitting down and singing to the water. And I still have that practice, and asking a question, and then usually the water would answer it. So I had that really nice, gentle, beautiful relationship with water. And one day I was trying to figure out what to write next. And I was trying to work on an outline of a novel, which now when I think about that is hilarious, because I hate outlines. I'm not a long form person. But anyway, I was determined to do it. I have a very strong will. Pisces are very strong willed. So I was determined to do it. I was trying to do it. And I sat down and I said to the water, what do I need to do what should I write? What do I need to write next? And what do I need to do about this? But in my back of my head, I was thinking, okay, the water's going to tell me about this novel. And instantly the whales showed up. And I knew it was them, because when I was a little girl, I had seen whales live in the ocean, and it was this, like, my body filled with starlight and moonlight, but like the kind of starlight and moonlight that would live at the bottom of the ocean, just calmed by the blueness of the ocean. And it was just this high, I'm feeling it now. It's just this high vibrational, sweet depth, old, beautiful, loving. And so instantly I got that feeling, and I knew it was them because I'd had that feeling before when I was in the presence of them. And there was just no questioning it. So I said, oh, hello, my loves. And I asked them, and they gave me this wonderful message about how to work. They just didn't even talk about the novel. They said, they gave me a message, which I'm actually, I'm doing a series of whale messages on Substack. So it'll be on that. It's the first message. I don't have it in front of me. But it was really nice. It was really about how to work in flow. And then they said, meditate with us for 3 months, and we'll tell you everything. So I started meditating, and I thought that meant 3 months in a row, but it didn't. Their messages are so big, you kind of have to sit with them for a while. And then sometimes they were busy. Like I'd sit down and meditate, and they were like, not today. Sorry, we're doing other things. We're holding the entire memory of all the planet in the water. So we've got other things to do. So that was in 2020, I think. And so I've just finished a collection of their messages, a little book I made. And so I have lots of messages from them. I have 108.
Wow.
And they really helped me get through my mother's death. And my husband and I had a conversation about it at some point, because I kept coming in the kitchen and saying, here's another fabulous message I got from the whales today. Make yourself happy before you work. It's the only way to spread joy. Just like, here's what the whales said today. So Tommy's so great. He just said, okay, well, write it down. That sounds really amazing. I'm glad, and one day I said, okay, I know what this is like for me, but what is it like for you when you hear these messages? And what is it like for you when your wife comes in and announces that she's been talking telepathically to deep undersea creatures, and they seem to understand exactly what her living room looks like, and she doesn't even question that? What is that like for you? And he said, well, I think I've seen a really beautiful shift in you since you've been listening. And he said, I think the things that you're reporting are amazing. Do I think that you are talking to whales, actual swimming around whales under the ocean? And then he just sort of lifted his shoulders and said, I don't know. The mind is an amazing thing. And at first I was like, well, bleep you, Tommy. but not really. And then I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If my mind is a wonderful thing, and that's what my mind is creating, and I'm still getting these messages that really are very healing to me, who cares?
Yeah.
It's not interesting to me, like whether or not it's real, whether or not it's, whether or not they actually couldn't, do that, or it's impossible. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the messages and how I work with them and how they affect me or people who hear them.
Mm-hmm.
That's so great. That's so beautiful.
That's advanced. That's advanced, Rebecca.
Is there a message, like any special messages you think would be good for our listeners to hear today?
Well, I'll tell you the one that I got that I'm still working with. It was so beautiful, but it's intense. I got it right after the election. And I sat down and said, okay, this is intense. There's a lot of intensity happening right now. Right before the election, I had been anxious. And so I said to the whales, I was walking up my street, going to the grocery store, and there's a beautiful woods and a graveyard right before I go to my grocery store. And I was walking up that street, just like stomp, 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 anxious, anxious, anxious. Just, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. And then I said, okay, you guys, I need to calm down. I need to calm down. What can you tell me? And they just said really simply, don't let what you think might happen get in the way of what's happening right now.
Wow.
And I looked up and I was in front of this gorgeous woods full of fall foliage, just everything around me was beautiful. And I thought, right today, right now, there's a lot that I think is going to happen, but in this moment, what could be more gorgeous? So that was one. Then the election happened and I sat down and I said, okay, well, now everybody's all stirred up, both sides in different ways. And it's hard for me as a super feeler to manage all of this. So what can you say to help me? And they said, you have to hold in your mind. This is so important for humans to hold in their mind. Even though you're on the opposite side of me, we are in this together.
Yeah.
And I'm still working with that. They then gave me a meditation to do, using that, which I'll put on Substack at some point, but it's been helpful. I'm still kind of working with it, but I have been holding that in my mind. We can't escape that we all share this planet. And even if you're on the opposite side of me, even if you decide, I know we're on the opposite side and I want to wipe you out because I don't want your side. I want you to die. I want to kill you. I want you to go away. Then that's on my conscience. That's in my soul's journey. That's with me forever. So even if we try to wipe each other out, we're still in this together. There's no, if we leave this planet with an energy significance of energy, what's the word? Energy something. Signature. Thank you. Of violence. That's that. Then we leave the world with that. For me, it doesn't end there.
No. Nope.
So, right. Yeah. Well, hold on. So, okay. So you just said, for me, it doesn't end there. And I think that's a real interesting thing about this moment. And I'd love your perspective of so in general, our sort of container, our story of how this all goes is birth to death. Mm-hmm. And of course, talking about mediumship, that's part of what the resistance is to mediumship is but that's the story. That's the end. It starts here at birth. It ends at death. Quit freaking us out talking about how it goes on, mm-hmm. So it's sort of I don't know, paradigm busting and metaphor losing. And where are we? And it starts to feel really disorienting to people. Because if you have, a religion that says, here's how it goes, the mm-hmm. end, he died for you. You're going to be stoked. You're going to go here, So I really love you bringing that to the conversation of and I should also note that we're about to close because we're almost out of time. I'm realizing, but I wonder if you want to just say one more thing about that, how to invite, and I think you've done such a beautiful job with all of this incredible story you've shared with us. How do we invite, how do we make it easier to track that? There is more. And
well, I think that everybody's ego is doing what they need to do. And it's sort of, and this I got from my brother-in-law, actually. He said to me once, Rebecca, I was saying, how can I just let people be where they are? It's very hard, which is such an arrogant thing to say. I mean, I can't even believe I was saying that, but that's what I was saying. And he said, I just look at it as everybody's ego is going through their own life cycle and their own, struggles. And you have to give them the ability to do that with dignity. So if someone just says, okay, it's beginning, middle, end, that's it. That's what they need to make themselves feel comfortable. And that's what they need to believe in. I am not going to take that away from them. And it may be true, but for me, what my life experience has been that's not true, that there's so much more, that this is endless. And to me, that's thrilling. So for me, I just feel for me, the story, I'm barely shut up once this whole podcast. For me, I just want the stories to go on and on and on and on, So I can't really speak for other people or what they should do, but I know that for me, being open to a continuum is a very fulfilling way and a very exciting way and a very wonderful way to be alive.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a perfect place to stop because it's the invitation, and I do just, as I said before, adore you, even though we've really only talked
So
not even
mutual.
IRL
So
through the
mutual.
Zoom. You're a storyteller who I like joyfully receive your emails. So I'd say to our listeners, run, don't walk to the Substack, and then you can find all the other ways to engage with Rebecca Berry, the Rebecca Berry. So thank you, friend. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
I'm
so much.
grateful to be here, you guys. What a pleasure. Thank you for having a podcast like this and for doing all of it, and then for all the things that you guys do and receive and the way you
can't wait
here.
for a book of whale.
Me either. It's coming.
Can't wait. Yes. Oh yeah, and then one day I want to have you back on, and I want to do a thing where we tune in and see if the whales will tell us something in common. That would be a fun game.
Yeah. Or just fuck with us. Sorry. Two completely different things.
I have a feeling that's more what would happen.
Do. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Miss Rebecca. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Oh, thank you guys so much. What a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.
Medium Curious is made possible
by Jane Morgan Editing.
Sarah Rathke made the amazing music. Mix by Podcast Engineers.
And you can help Medium Curious by downloading the episodes
and following our socials. And the dogs under the desk in Hawaii are Kalea and Domino.
And Trixie in California.